All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we look at section 3.2 in SALIX Math 1105, what we're doing is we're starting this section with some very definite review from the intermediate algebra class, which you've had previously, or if you tested into college algebra, you must have had this material somewhere before. But here's your reminder. If I'm trying to solve this equation, okay? What I'm really doing in this particular problem, notice that this side has already been factored and this side has been set equal to 0. I'm going to solve this equation using what I call the zero factor property. And in order to use that property, here's what we do. We first make sure that one side is set equal to 0, which is done here, and we make sure that the other side has already been factored, which is done here. Okay? Now, think about this. If two factors are multiplied together to equal 0, in other words, let's just say it, if two things are multiplied together to equal 0, at least one of them has to be 0. So the next line in this problem would be to set up our two cases. Either 2x minus 3 is equal to 0, or the other possibility is that 3x plus 5 is equal to 0, or maybe they're both equal to 0. But the word or takes care of that, one or the other or both. So anytime I have two factors multiplied together to equal 0, either the first one is 0 or the second one is 0. If I solve this first case, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I'm going to end up with 2x is equal to 3, and I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 2. So one solution to my equation is the answer 3/2. If I solve this case, my first step is to subtract 5 from both sides. So I have 3x equals a negative 5. And then, of course, to finish, we'll divide by 3. So my answer here would be x is a negative 5/3. So this equation has two solutions. Now, this next equation asks you to solve it also, which means give me the answers for x. We have 3x squared plus x minus 2 is 0. Whenever you see an equation of degree 2, you know that that's quadratic. Q-U-A-D-R-A-T-I-C. It's a quadratic equation. And a quadratic equation has at most two, in this case, two real solutions. I'm going to attempt to solve this by factoring. So I'm going to use again the zero factor property. One side has already been set equal to 0, but this side has not been factored. So what we need to do here is try to factor it. If it doesn't factor, we're going to have to use a different method, but we're at the very beginning of 3.2, so these are the pretty easy problems. I factor usually by trial and error. Some of you have been taught the AC method. I've even taught my 1033 students the voodoo method. Whatever method of factoring you've been taught to factor a trinomial, now's the time to use it. I'm going to go ahead and put a 3x here and an x here. These two multiply together to give me the front. In the back, I need a product of negative 2. So let's see, I'm going to try a negative 2 here and a positive 1 here. And just to make sure that we've nailed it, remember the inner product and the outer product go together to give me the middle. And the way I think I told you that in class is chin and grin. Chin is the inner part, that's negative 2x. That's the small part. And grin is the outer part, which is 3x. 3x minus 2x give me 1x, so I know I factored this correctly. So it chins and grins correctly, okay? And now, it looks like the previous problem. Two factors multiply, so in other words, we factored it. Two factors multiply together to give me 0. So either the first factor is 0, or the second factor is 0. If the first factor is 0, okay, 3x minus 2 is 0, then what we do is we add 2 to both sides. giving me 3x is equal to 2, and then divide by 3. So we get the answer 2/3, one answer. Or the other answer here, we just simply subtract 1. So this equation has two answers, a positive 2/3 and a negative 1. Whenever you have a quadratic equation, the maximum number of real solutions you're going to get, the maximum number of solutions you're going to get is 2. All right? And we've solved that by what's called factoring. We've used the zero factor property. If an equation cannot be solved by factoring, that's why we're going to spend some time in this section to look at other methods.